Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, do that thing down below. Now, you might have noticed up here that it says paid promotion, and that is true. This is the first paid promotion I've done, and that is because I was sent fork extenders for the KTM 390 Adventure. Now, these are something that I had been looking for after I saw someone in the UK make a run of these. They did a limited run, and I wasn't able to get a hold of those at that time. Now, I didn't realize that there were some other fork extenders out there until I was contacted by the folks at NiceCNC who said, hey, do you mind trying these out? Tell us what you think, do a video on it. And because this was something I already wanted, this became self-serving. So yeah, fork extenders for the KTM 390 Adventure. Now, if you're not sure of what these are, these slide over the top of the fork leg, and then this shelf here will go into the top of the triple clamp. So it should give me about a little over an inch of extension on the fork. And the purpose of that is to get more ground clearance, and it will also slacken the rake out just a little. So I'm gonna do the install on these. We are gonna figure out how it feels. A couple of things that are gonna happen is the seat height is gonna go up a little bit. So prior to putting these in, I'm going to measure the seat height. I'm going to measure the overall ground clearance where the skid plate is, and then I'm also going to look at the rake and see what the angle of the rake is before and after installing these. So if this is something you're interested in, stick around. We'll do the install. Should be really straightforward and very simple. And yeah, we'll go from there. I'm gonna measure the seat height here. The bike is tilted over just a little bit. It's pretty dang close. Keep in mind I have the KTM Ergo seat, and just eyeballing it, my seat height is right around 34 inches without the fork extenders. Bike is on the stand, obviously lifted. Front tire is taken off. Now, in order to drop the fork down, there is one bolt up high, hex head, and there's two down here in the bottom of the triple clamp. I'm gonna loosen the top one up all the way. I'm gonna lightly loosen these just enough so I can slide the fork up and down. And once I get it slid down enough, I'll slide the new fork extender over the top and then push it back up. Once it's in place, I'll tighten these just enough to hold it, and then I will get everything torqued down and then switch to the other side. So I've completely removed the fork on the right side. I'm going to put the fork extender that has the bolt that would be kind of on the left side, I guess, so that the bolts match up with the existing one. That way I can tighten from both places. So I'll tighten this first one down since that's where I want this. There's no clearance issue. Then I'll just slide the fork back up and make sure it's seated all the way, and then I'll get it tightened. All right, after sliding it up, I'm just making sure it's seated all the way in the bottom of the fork extender, which this is, so now I can tighten it up. All right, on the left leg, there just isn't enough room, enough length on the brake cable, so I'm gonna have to take off the caliper. I think I'm gonna have to take the sensor off as well so that I can drop the fork leg down enough to get that to fit up in there. And I do have some concerns of whether or not the brake cable and the sensor is gonna be long enough, because I have the high fender on here and it takes up a little bit of extra brake cable in order to route around that. So let's see what we can figure out. Just trying to get this to seat all the way. I have some PVC pipe and a hammer. getting this up so that it's seated all the way in the collar. And it is. The lighting's not real great, but the brake is in place and the cable, this little retention thing here, I had it flipped over so that it pointed up. I flipped it down and that gave me some extra space. One of the other concerns I had, and I actually pulled the brake cable a little bit tighter, because if you look in the back, the brake cable is really close to rubbing on the mount for the radiator guard. So I wanted to make sure it didn't do that. So actually pulling this tight helped keep that from rubbing on there. And there is enough cable that I'm not worried about it. And so the brake went on just fine. And I just need to zip tie the sensors up and then put the wheel back on and get everything torqued down, so it should be good. As far as the installation goes, there's just one other thing I need to do, and that is to put these little caps in. So these caps cover up the adjustments in here. So I'll show that. And as far as being able to get to the adjustments, I can still reach it with my fingers just fine down in there. And then this just keeps dirt, debris, things from getting caught up in that open space there. So I'll show that real quick, and then everything is done. Put the bike back down, we'll do our measurements, and then hopefully tomorrow it won't be raining and I can get out and do a test ride just to see if I feel any difference. All right, let's check the seat height. It brought it up about 3/4 of an inch. So it looks like it's about 34 3/4, 34 and a half, 34 3/4. So it's, I mean, this isn't precise, it's not exact, but that's what I'm thinking, is it's somewhere around 34 3/4. All right, the front of the skid plate is about 8 1/4. The lowest point, still about 7 1/2. So the lowest point, it probably brought it up 1/4. At the front, it brought it up about 3/4 of an inch. So there is a little bit more ground clearance. It's just this lower part here that is possibly where you might get snagged, but at least this will be a sliding area across the skid plate. This does give you a little bit of extra ground clearance, not a significant amount, probably about 1/2 inch in the rear and about 3/4 up front, which it gives you a better slide angle than going over things. So is it worth it? I think to know it's going to take some time and using it and see if there's any difference off-road. I look at the rake of the head angle now to see how much it changed. Maybe 1/2 degree. Not a significant amount. It's not something that the average rider is going to notice, but it did slacken it just a little, as it would, but I just wanted to see what that difference would be. So about 1/2 degree. The fork extenders are installed. My initial thoughts on them are the machining looks really good. The cap that went on fit really well. It has a little O-ring on it to help seal it so you don't get water in there. That's really fantastic as well. It brought the front up about 3/4 of an inch. The back is maybe 1/2 inch, but it is a little bit more ground clearance, and when every little quarter, half millimeter, whatever it takes, it just gives you a little bit more space when you're out riding on the trails. And I think it'll give a better approach and descent off of things. So if you're sliding off the skid plate, you'll be able to do that a little bit easier and not get hung up. Been able to do a little bit of riding on the fork extenders now. Not a lot, nothing extreme as far as off-road. That's going to wait until next spring, summer. It's getting to be that transitional time of year. But a couple of very obvious observations are the bike feels taller. It's not any more difficult getting a foot down now as it was before. If you're interested, I have a 33-inch inseam, not a problem. And the other thing that's very obvious is that the bike leans over a little bit more on the kickstand, which is to be expected because it sits up a little bit higher. It's a little bit further to get down. Other than that, I don't really notice anything else. It's going to take a lot of off-road riding to really get a feel if that little bit of extra ground clearance is making a difference. And that also depends on how extreme of off-road you're doing. If this is something you're interested in putting on your bike, there is a link in the description below, and there's also a discount code for these. So if you use ADV10, you'll get a 10% discount off of the fork extenders. So if you made it to the end, thanks for watching. Get out, do some riding, ride safe, and I will see you out there.